arrogant CEO never pleased any woman. Until one night, the beautiful Viegin challenged him. The charity gala was everything Natalie Brooks had feared. It would be a glittering cesspool of champagne-soaked egos and designer gowns that cost more than her yearly rent. She stood near the back of the grand ballroom, clutching a glass of sparkling water like a shield, wondering for the 100th time why her boss had insisted she attend this torture session. Just network, her editor had said. Mingle with the rich folks. Maybe you'll find a story worth writing. The only story Natalie wanted to write right now was titled How to Fake a Medical Emergency to Escape a Boring Party. She adjusted the modest black dress she'd borrowed from her roommate, the only thing in her closet that didn't scream, struggling journalist who eats ramen for dinner, and tried to blend into the gilded wallpaper. Around her, Manhattan's elite laughed too loudly at jokes that weren't funny, air-kissed people they probably despised, and compared vacation homes like they were trading cards. Pretentious doesn't even begin to cover this, Natalie muttered under her breath. Talking to yourself? That's either a sign of genius or insanity. Natalie turned to find a woman around her age, with kind eyes and an amused smile. Unlike everyone else in the room, she seemed genuinely friendly. Insanity, Natalie admitted. Definitely insanity. I'm Natalie. Regina. And trust me, I get it. These things are insufferable. Regina glanced around conspiratorially. My brother dragged me here. Apparently, being a reclusive tech genius doesn't excuse you from maintaining appearances. Before Natalie could respond, a cluster of women nearby erupted into high-pitched giggles. Both she and Regina turned toward the commotion. At the center of the crowd stood a man who looked like he'd been photoshopped into existence. Tall, sharp-jawed, with dark hair styled just carelessly enough to seem effortless, he wore a custom tuxedo that probably cost more than Natalie's car. He was handsome in that insufferable way that made you want to both stare and roll your eyes simultaneously. Who's that? Natalie asked. Regina snorted. That's Dominic Ashford, tech mogul, venture capitalist, and certified pain in my ass, also known as my brother. Your brother is Dominic Ashford? Natalie's journalist instincts kicked in. She'd read about him, the 32-year-old wunderkind, who'd built a software empire before most people figured out their career path. Brilliant, ruthless, and reportedly impossible to interview. Unfortunately, Regina said with sisterly exasperation, he's also arrogant, emotionally constipated, and has the romantic track record of a revolving door. As if sensing he was being discussed, Dominic's gaze swept across the room and landed on them. His eyes, an unsettling shade of gray-blue, locked with Natalie's for a fraction of a second before moving on, dismissive. Something about that casual dismissal ignited an irrational spark of irritation in Natalie's chest. Come on, Regina said, linking her arm through Natalie's. Let's get more drinks and mock people from a safe distance. They'd barely made it 3 steps when a portly man in an expensive suit intercepted them, clearly already several champagnes deep. Regina, darling. He kissed the air near her cheek. You must introduce me to your lovely friend. Natalie, this is Charles Whitmore. He owns half the art galleries in the city, Regina said with barely concealed boredom. A journalist, Charles exclaimed after Natalie mentioned her profession. How refreshing. Tell me, what brings a woman of substance to this parade of vanity? Masochism, mostly, Natalie replied. Charles roared with laughter, attracting attention, including, unfortunately, Dominic Ashford's. He approached their small circle with the casual confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his life. Up close, he was even more annoyingly perfect, except for the coldness in his expression that suggested he found everything around him mildly tedious. Regina, he said, by way of greeting, barely glancing at his sister. Then, his eyes slid to Natalie with the kind of analytical assessment that made her feel like a spreadsheet being evaluated. I don't believe we've met. Natalie Brooks, she said, refusing to offer her hand first. Dominic Ashford. He waited a beat, clearly expecting recognition or fawning. When neither came, Something flickered in his expression, surprise. Maybe? What do you do, Natalie Brooks? I'm a journalist. Ah. The single syllable dripped with condescension. Which publication? The Brooklyn Daily. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Charming. Local interest stories about community gardens and neighborhood disputes. Natalie's grip tightened on her glass. Actually, I cover real issues. Housing inequality, labor rights, corporate corruption. You know, things that matter to people who don't summer in the Hamptons. Regina choked on her champagne. Dominic's eyebrows rose fractionally. How noble. And presumably poorly paid? Money isn't everything, Mr. Ashford. Spoken like someone who's never had any. His tone was matter of fact, not deliberately cruel, which somehow made it worse. In my experience, people who claim money doesn't matter are usually just bad at making it. Heat flooded Natalie's cheeks. And in my experience, people who reduce everything to dollar signs are usually compensating for having nothing of actual value to offer the world. The air between them crackled. Regina looked delighted. Charles had quietly backed away. Dominic studied her with renewed interest, like she'd transformed from a spreadsheet into a particularly intriguing puzzle. You have strong opinions for someone crashing a party she clearly doesn't belong at. I was invited, actually. Not that I need your permission to exist in the same space as your ego. My ego? His laugh was sharp and humorless. That's rich. Coming from someone who walked in here with a chip on her shoulder the size of Manhattan. Judging everyone before they've said a word. Natalie stopped, hating that he had a point. You know what? This conversation is over. She turned to leave, but her borrowed heels half a size too small betrayed her. Her ankle twisted, and she stumbled directly into a passing waiter carrying a tray of champagne flutes. Everything happened in slow motion and too fast simultaneously. The tray tilted, glasses tumbled. Champagne arced through the air in a golden cascade that splashed across Dominic Ashford's custom tuxedo, drenching him from chest to thigh. The ballroom went silent. Natalie stood frozen, hands still outstretched from her failed attempt to catch herself, watching champagne drip from Dominic's jacket onto the marble floor. His expression was unreadable. The crowd held its collective breath. Then Dominic looked down at his ruined tuxedo, up at Natalie's mortified face, and said in a voice of deadly calm, "Well, this is the most interesting thing that's happened to me all month." Natalie's face burned hot enough to power a small city. "I am so sorry?" He peeled off his soaked jacket with deliberate movements. "I imagine you are. Though I suspect there's a small part of you that enjoyed that. I didn't. It was an accident." "Of course it was." His eyes glinted with something dangerous and amused. "Just like this conversation was an accident. Just like you accidentally insulted my entire worldview 5 minutes after meeting me." Regina was openly laughing now. "You insulted mine first," Natalie shot back, finding her spine again despite the humiliation coursing through her. "Fair enough." Dominic handed his ruined jacket to a hovering staff member. In just his white dress shirt, now partially translucent from champagne, he somehow looked even more intimidating. "Tell me, Natalie Brooks from the Brooklyn Daily, do you make a habit of assaulting people you disagree with?" "Only the ones who deserve it." The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile. Almost. "Interesting," he murmured, stepping closer. Close enough that she caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with champagne. Very interesting indeed. Before Natalie could formulate a response, he turned and walked away, leaving her standing in a puddle of spilled champagne, her heart racing for reasons she absolutely refused to examine. Regina appeared at her elbow, grinning like the Cheshire Cat. "Oh, this is going to be fun." "What is?" "You just became the first person in 5 years to genuinely surprise my brother." Regina clinked her glass against Natalie's. "Welcome to his radar, honey. God help you." "What did you think of Natalie and Dominic's explosive first meeting? Have you ever had a disastrous encounter that you couldn't stop thinking about later? Drop your thoughts in the comments below." The following morning, Natalie sat in her cramped Brooklyn apartment, nursing her third cup of coffee and trying to forget the previous night's disaster. Her laptop balanced precariously on a stack of research books, the cursor blinking mockingly at her half-written article about gentrification in Red Hook. "You're spiraling," said her roommate Jade, emerging from her bedroom in an oversized sweatshirt and fuzzy socks. "I can tell because you've reorganized the spice rack. We don't even cook." "I'm not spiraling." Natalie closed her laptop with more force than necessary. "I'm processing. You dumped champagne on a billionaire and then insulted him to his face. That's not processing territory, that's full-blown crisis mode." Jade flopped onto their sagging couch, tucking her legs beneath her. "Was he really as hot as the internet says?" "Irrelevant." So yes." Jade grinned. "Come on, give me details. I'm living vicariously through you since my love life consists of swiping left on men who pose with sedated tigers." Natalie groaned, dropping her head into her hands. He was insufferable. Arrogant. Condescending. He looked at me like I was something stuck to his shoe. But hot. Infuriatingly hot. Yes. Natalie lifted her head. "Which makes it worse, because now I can't stop replaying the conversation, thinking of all the better comebacks I should have used." Jade laughed. "That's so perfectly you. Most people would be worried about making a bad impression. You're mad you didn't insult him better." It was true. Natalie had never been good at letting things go, especially injustice, even perceived injustice. It was what made her a good journalist and a terrible party guest. She'd grown up in a middle-class family in Ohio, watching her parents work themselves to exhaustion just to stay afloat. She'd put herself through journalism school with scholarships and 3 part-time jobs, graduating with debt and determination in equal measure. People like Dominic Ashford, born into privilege, multiplying wealth like it was a simple math equation, represented everything she'd spent her career fighting against. The consolidation of power, the casual dismissal of struggle, the fundamental disconnect between the haves and have-nots. At least, that's what she told herself. It was easier than admitting that his gray-blue eyes had haunted her dreams. "You know what you need," Jade said, standing and stretching. "A distraction. Come to the community center with me. We're teaching coding to kids this afternoon." Natalie smiled. This was why she loved Jade, a software engineer who spent her Saturdays volunteering, who believed in using her skills to bridge gaps rather than widen them. "Can't. I have to finish this article by Monday, and I'm interviewing a tenant rights organizer at 2. "Fine. But you're coming to game night Friday. No excuses." After Jade left, Natalie tried to focus on work, but her mind kept drifting. She hated that Dominic Ashford had gotten under her skin. She especially hated that part of her wanted to see him again, just to prove she could hold her own in a conversation without a champagne-related catastrophe. Her phone buzzed. A text from her editor. "Call me. Potential story." Across town, in a penthouse that overlooked Central Park, Dominic Ashford stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, coffee in hand, reviewing quarterly reports on his tablet. His apartment was all clean lines and expensive minimalism, more showroom than home. He preferred it that way. No clutter, no mess, no complications. "You're brooding," Regina said, letting herself in with the spare key he'd given her, and immediately regretted. "I can tell because you're standing in your contemplative billionaire pose." "I'm working. You're thinking about the journalist who baptized you in champagne." Regina helped herself to his coffee maker, completely at home in his space despite his protests. "Don't deny it. You've had that look since last night." Dominic didn't respond, which was answer enough. Regina was right, of course. His brilliant, annoying little sister was usually right, which made her nearly as insufferable as she claimed he was. But he'd never admit that Natalie Brooks had occupied far too much mental real estate for someone he'd known for approximately 12 minutes. She was everything he typically avoided: idealistic, emotional, financially unstable, and apparently incapable of basic motor coordination in heels. And yet, there was something about the fire in her eyes when she'd challenged him, the way she hadn't cowered or fawned like everyone else at that tedious party. She'd looked at him like he was just a man. An annoying man, admittedly, but not a bank account or a business opportunity or a stepping stone to social advancement. It had been refreshing. Irritating, but refreshing. You know what your problem is? Regina settled onto his obscenely expensive couch with her coffee. You've forgotten how to connect with actual human beings. Everything is a transaction to you. Every conversation is a negotiation. That's not true. Name the last person you talked to who wasn't related to business or obligatory family interaction. Dominic opened his mouth, then closed it. Exactly. Regina shook her head. You've built this empire, Dominic, but you live in it alone. When was the last time you went on a real date? And I don't mean those transactional dinners with women who see you as a retirement plan. I'm not having this conversation. You never do. That's the problem. Regina's voice softened. I love you, but you've turned yourself into a robot. Ever since Victoria, don't. The name hit like a physical blow. That has nothing to do with this, doesn't it? She broke your heart, so you decided never to have one again. You've been running on pure ambition and stubbornness for 3 years. Dominic turned away from the window, his jaw tight. Victoria had been his fiancée, right up until she'd left him for a European aristocrat with a more impressive pedigree. The betrayal had stung less than the realization that he'd never truly known her, that their entire relationship had been a carefully constructed performance. He'd learned his lesson. Emotions were liabilities. Love was a beautiful story people told themselves before reality crushed them. Better to focus on what he could control. Numbers, strategies, outcomes. I'm fine, he said firmly. You're alone, Regina corrected. There's a difference. She stood, crossing to him. That woman last night, Natalie, she saw past all your armor in about 30 seconds. That scared you. That, she insulted me. No, she challenged you. And you liked it. Regina kissed his cheek. Just think about it, okay? Life is more than quarterly earnings and acquisition targets. After she left, Dominic stood in his pristine apartment, surrounded by the evidence of his success, and felt the weight of the silence pressing down. He pulled out his phone and, after a moment's hesitation, typed Natalie Brooks Brooklyn Daily into the search bar. Her articles appeared passionate, well-researched pieces about social justice, inequality, and corporate accountability. One headline made him smirk. How tech giants are pricing out communities. A case study in greed. She'd probably written it about people like him. He should have been offended. Instead, he found himself reading every word, hearing her voice in the prose fierce, uncompromising, brilliant. His phone rang. His assistant. Mr. Ashford, the charity gala organizers called. They're requesting you participate in their upcoming fundraiser series, a bachelor auction to benefit literacy programs. Dominic nearly declined automatically. Then he paused, an idea forming. Tell them yes, he said slowly. On one condition, I want the Brooklyn Daily to cover it. Specifically, I want a journalist named Natalie Brooks assigned to the story. Sir? Make it happen. He ended the call, a rare smile touching his lips. If Natalie Brooks thought she'd seen the last of him, she was very much mistaken. Natalie stared at her editor Dan, convinced she'd misheard him. Absolutely not. It's not a request. Brooks. Dan leaned back in his creaky office chair, arms crossed over his rumpled button-down shirt. The gala organizers specifically requested you for this assignment. A bachelor auction benefiting literacy programs, it's a perfect human interest piece. You want me to write a puff piece about rich men being auctioned off like prize cattle? Natalie's voice rose. Dan, I'm in the middle of investigating landlord harassment in Bushwick. That actually matters. And this pays the bills. Dan's expression softened slightly. Look, kid, I know it's not your usual beat, but the paper needs this. They're paying well for coverage, and we need the revenue. Plus, it's good exposure. Exposure doesn't pay my rent. No, but this assignment does. Double your usual rate. You go, you observe, you write something that doesn't drip with contempt for everyone involved, and then you're back to your crusades. Natalie snatched the folder, flipping it open. Her blood ran cold when she saw the list of participating bachelors. Dominic Ashford's name sat at the top. No, She dropped the folder on Dan's desk. Absolutely not. Anyone but this. What's the problem? I know him. We have history. Dan's eyebrows shot up. You dated Dominic Ashford? What? No. I dumped champagne on him at a charity event last week. Silence filled the office. Then Dan started laughing deep, wheezing laughs that made his shoulders shake. It's not funny. It's hilarious. Dan wiped his eyes. Please tell me there's video. Dan. Brooks, listen to me. He sobered, though amusement still danced in his eyes. This is even better. You've got a personal angle. The journalist who soaked a billionaire now has to cover him being auctioned off? That's comedy gold. Our readers will eat it up. I will not write some cutesy piece about my awkward encounter with a privileged tech bro. Then don't. Write what you always write, the truth. The spectacle of wealth, the performance of charity, whatever angle your conscience demands. Just be there Friday night and turn in 2,000 words by Monday. Natalie recognized the finality in his tone. Dan was a good editor and a better friend, but he was also running a struggling newspaper in an impossible media landscape. If he said they needed this, they needed this. Fine, she muttered. But if he recognizes me and makes a scene, then you'll have an even better story. Friday evening arrived too quickly. Natalie stood outside the Plaza Hotel, watching Manhattan's elite arrive in town cars and limousines, and seriously considered faking food poisoning. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jade. You've got this. Channel your inner warrior. Wear that armor like a boss. Also, your butt looks great in that dress. Despite herself, Natalie smiled. She'd borrowed another dress from Jade. This one, a deep emerald that actually fit, with a neckline that was professional but flattering. Her dark hair fell in loose waves, and she'd even attempted makeup beyond her usual mascara. Not for Dominic Ashford, she told herself firmly. For confidence, for armor. She took a breath and walked inside. The ballroom was transformed into an elegant auction house, complete with a stage, dramatic lighting, and seating arrangements that probably cost more than her monthly salary. Women in designer gowns claimed the best tables, already clutching champagne and bidding paddles like weapons. Natalie found a spot near the back, notebook in hand, trying to blend into observer mode. Well, if it isn't my favorite journalist. She knew that voice. Turned slowly. Dominic Ashford stood before her, in a perfectly tailored navy suit that made his eyes look almost silver in the low light. He looked infuriatingly calm, a slight smirk playing at his lips. Mr. Ashford. She kept her voice professional. I'm here on assignment. I know. I requested you. The words hung between them like a challenge. You. What? I specifically asked that you cover this event. He moved closer, and she caught that same expensive cologne from last week. Surprised? Confused. Why would you want the person who ruined your tuxedo to write about you? Because you're the only person in that entire gala who treated me like a human being instead of a walking investment opportunity, even if you did think I was a terrible human being. His smile widened. Besides, I was curious if you'd actually show up. I'm a professional. You're terrified right now, he said it matter-of-factly, not cruelly. Your left hand is fidgeting with your notebook, and you've positioned yourself near the exit. Fight or flight response. Which will you choose, Natalie Brooks? Fight or flight? The use of her full name sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. She lifted her chin. I don't run from anything, Mr. Ashford. Not even arrogant millionaires with savior complexes. Billionaire, actually. Let's be accurate. Oh, forgive me. That extra 9 zeros must make you so much more tolerable. That surprised laugh again, sharp and genuine. There she is. I was worried you'd gone soft. Never. Good. He glanced toward the stage where the event organizer was preparing to start. Then you won't mind if I make this interesting. What are you? But he was already walking away, leaving her with a sense of impending doom. The auction began with practiced efficiency. Bachelor after bachelor took the stage, posed, smiled, and got bid on by enthusiastic women wielding paddles like swords. The amounts were staggering: $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 for a single dinner date. Natalie took notes, her journalistic cynicism in full force, until the MC announced, "And now, our final bachelor of the evening, tech innovator and philanthropist, Dominic Ashford." The crowd erupted. Women sat up straighter. Paddles were readied. Dominic took the stage with easy confidence, and Natalie hated that her pulse quickened. He looked completely in his element, comfortable being objectified, being wanted. Dominic Ashford, ladies. Starting bid is $10,000. Paddles shot up immediately. The price climbed rapidly, 15, 20, 30,000. Natalie watched, fascinated and repulsed in equal measure. This was exactly the kind of spectacle she'd expected to critique. The commodification of romance, the transactional nature of Dominic's eyes found hers in the crowd. Held. 40,000, someone shouted. He didn't look away from Natalie. 45. The corner of his mouth lifted in a challenge. $50,000. The MC beamed. 50,000, going once. $100,000. The voice came from the stage, from Dominic himself. Confused silence fell over the ballroom. "I'm sorry, Mr. Ashford, but you can't bid on yourself." "I'm not bidding on myself." Dominic's voice carried clearly through the microphone. "I'm buying out the auction. $100,000 to the Literacy Fund. On one condition." "What condition?" the MC asked nervously. Dominic pointed directly at Natalie. "I want my dinner date to be with her." Every head in the room swiveled toward Natalie. Her face went hot. Her hands went cold. Her brain short-circuited. "That's highly irregular," the MC stammered. "It's also $100,000 for your cause." Dominic's eyes never left Natalie's. "What do you say, Miss Brooks? Will you accept my terms?" The room held its breath. Natalie's mind raced. She could refuse, should refuse. This was manipulation, a power play, a ridiculous stunt designed to embarrass her. But it was also $100,000 for literacy programs. Real money that would help real people learn to read. Damn him. He'd backed her into a corner using her own principles as leverage. She stood slowly, every eye tracking her movement. "Mr. Ashford," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos in her chest. "You just paid $100,000 for the privilege of having dinner with someone who thinks you're a pompous, arrogant, overprivileged. I'm aware of your opinion of me. That's precisely why I find you fascinating." The crowd murmured, sensing a story unfolding. Natalie lifted her chin. "Fine, one dinner. But I'm choosing the restaurant, and you're answering every question I ask for my article. Full transparency. No PR-approved responses." Something flashed in his eyes. "Respect? Amusement? Deal. Then you have yourself a date, Mr. Ashford." The room exploded in applause and excited chatter. Natalie sat down, her heart hammering, as the reality crashed over her. She'd just agreed to dinner with Dominic Ashford. This was either the best opportunity she'd ever get for a real interview, or the worst mistake of her professional life. Possibly both. The restaurant Natalie chose was deliberate, a small, family-owned Italian place in Brooklyn that had been serving the neighborhood for 40 years. No valet parking, no sommelier, no private dining rooms, just checkered tablecloths, honest food, and the kind of authentic atmosphere that couldn't be bought. She arrived 15 minutes early, claimed a table near the window, and ordered water. Her notebook sat open before her, questions already prepared. This was an interview, she reminded herself, a professional obligation. The fact that she'd changed outfits 3 times before leaving her apartment was irrelevant. Dominic arrived exactly on time, looking completely out of place in his tailored charcoal suit among the casual Friday night diners. Every head turned as he entered, whispers rippling through the restaurant. "You really don't do subtle, do you?" Natalie said as he slid into the seat across from her. "Says the woman who dumped champagne on me in a room full of people." He glanced around, taking in the crowded space, the family photos on the walls, the grandmother arguing in Italian with the cook. "This is not what I expected." What did you expect? Some trendy fusion place where you could impress me with your platinum credit card? The thought had crossed my mind. He picked up the laminated menu with something approaching curiosity. Though I'm starting to realize impressing you requires a different strategy. You can't impress me, Mr. Ashford. I'm here for one reason: to get answers for my article. Right, the article. He set down the menu, meeting her gaze directly. Ask your questions then. Full transparency, as promised. Natalie clicked her pen, armor firmly in place. Let's start with the bachelor auction. Why did you participate? Tax-deductible charity contribution with positive PR benefits. Honest, at least. And the $100,000 stunt? Not a stunt, an investment. In what? In seeing you again. He said it simply, without pretense. You're the first genuinely interesting person I've encountered in months. Maybe years. Natalie's pen paused. That's not an answer. That's a line. It's both. A server appeared, and Dominic ordered in surprisingly fluent Italian, earning an approving nod from the older woman. After she left, he continued. You want honesty? Fine. I'm bored, Natalie. Profoundly, soul-crushingly bored. Every conversation is predictable. Every interaction transactional. Every person wants something from me. And I don't? You actively seem to dislike me. It's refreshing. Despite herself, Natalie's lips twitched. So I'm what, a novelty? Something different to alleviate your rich person ennui? Maybe initially. He leaned forward. But then I read your articles. All of them. The piece on tech gentrification was particularly scathing. You compared people like me to modern-day robber barons. Heat crept up her neck. You read my work? Every word. You're a brilliant writer, with a clear moral compass, and absolutely no fear of powerful institutions. You also have a tendency toward righteous anger that occasionally undermines your arguments with emotional appeals. But overall, your work is exceptional. Natalie blinked, completely thrown. Thank you? Don't thank me. I'm simply observing objectively. The server returned with wine, a bottle Dominic must have ordered in Italian. He poured for both of them. Now let me ask you something. Why do you hate people like me so much? I don't hate you. You hate what I represent. It wasn't a question. Natalie took a sip of wine, buying time. The truth was complicated. Tied up in her childhood, her parents' struggles, every eviction notice and collection call that had punctuated her upbringing. I hate inequality, she said finally. I hate that some people have so much while others have nothing. I hate that money buys influence, that wealth compounds wealth, that the system is rigged to keep people exactly where they started. So you've decided I'm the enemy because I've succeeded within that system, haven't you? Your company displaced hundreds of families when you developed that property in Queens. Small businesses closed because they couldn't afford the new rents. You got richer, while communities were destroyed. Dominic's jaw tightened. You're referring to the Riverside Project. I am. Did your research include the fact that we built affordable housing units? That we provided relocation assistance and job training programs? That we worked with community leaders for 2 years before breaking ground? That's PR spin. It's fact. His voice sharpened. But it doesn't fit your narrative, so you ignored it. You've already decided who I am, Natalie. You've made me a villain in your story because it's easier than acknowledging complexity. That's not fair, isn't it? You talk about hating prejudice and assumptions, but you've done nothing but assume things about me since we met. The words hit harder than they should have. Natalie set down her wine glass. You're right. Dominic blinked. What? You're right. I did make assumptions. I do that sometimes, see things in black and white when they're actually gray. She met his eyes. I apologize. That was unfair of me. The tension at their table shifted, softened. Dominic looked genuinely surprised. I wasn't expecting that. I can admit when I'm wrong. It's called intellectual honesty. It's called being a better person than most. He smiled, a real smile this time, without the armor. See? You keep surprising me. Their food arrived, and the conversation flowed more easily. Dominic asked about her work, actually listened to her answers, challenged her perspectives without dismissing them. He was intelligent, wickedly funny when he let his guard down, and far more self-aware than she'd given him credit for. So why technology? Natalie asked, twirling pasta on her fork. Why not finance or real estate or any of the other ways rich people make money? Because technology is the only true meritocracy left. A good idea from a kid in a garage can change the world. Code doesn't care about your last name or your connections. He paused. My father wanted me to take over his hedge fund. Traditional wealth, traditional power. But I wanted to build something myself, prove I could succeed on my own terms. And did you? Yes, but it cost me. Something dark flickered across his face. I lost relationships, friendships, time I'll never get back. I became exactly what my father always was, successful and alone. The vulnerability caught Natalie off guard. This wasn't the arrogant billionaire from the gala. This was a man who'd sacrificed everything for success and was only now questioning if it had been worth it. Is that why you're here? She asked softly. Because you're lonely? I'm here because you're real. No performance, no agenda beyond your principles. When you look at me, you don't see a bank account or a business opportunity. You see a person. A flawed, occasionally insufferable person, but a person nonetheless. You are insufferable. And you're judgmental, stubborn, and have terrible taste in footwear for formal events. Natalie laughed despite herself. Those were borrowed heels. That explains so much. They talked through dessert, then coffee, the restaurant emptying around them until the owner gently suggested they were closing. Dominic paid the bill over Natalie's protests and left a tip that made the server's eyes widen. Outside, the Brooklyn night was cool and clear. Natalie pulled her jacket tighter. I'll get you a car, Dominic said, already pulling out his phone. I can take the subway. At midnight? Absolutely not. I do it all the time. Well, tonight you don't have to. His tone left no room for argument. Consider it part of the date package you didn't ask for. This wasn't a date. No. He stepped closer, and Natalie's breath caught. What would you call it? Research. An interview. Is that what your racing pulse is telling you? His voice dropped lower. Because mine is saying something entirely different. Natalie should have stepped back, should have maintained professional distance. Instead, she found herself swaying forward, drawn by something she didn't want to name. This is a bad idea, she whispered. Probably the worst. His hand came up, fingers barely grazing her cheek. Tell me to stop. She should have. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was crossing a line, mixing professional and personal in ways that never ended well. But logic had left the building. I can't, she admitted. Dominic's eyes darkened. He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, his intentions clear. But then, the car arrived, horn honking, breaking the moment. They sprang apart, like teenagers caught by parents. Your chariot, Dominic said, voice rough. Natalie climbed into the car, her heart hammering. Through the window, she watched him stand on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets, looking as off-balance as she felt. As the car pulled away, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Same time next week? I promise to be more insufferable. D. Despite everything, Natalie smiled. She was in so much trouble. Natalie didn't text back that night, or the next morning, or the day after that. She told herself it was professional boundaries. She was writing an article about the Bachelor auction, and getting personally involved with her subject would compromise her integrity. That's what she told Jade, her editor, and the Mirror every morning. But the truth was more complicated. The truth was that Dominic Ashford had gotten under her skin in ways she couldn't rationalize away, and that terrified her more than any deadline or confrontation ever had. She threw herself into work, covering city council meetings and interviewing community organizers. But her mind kept drifting to that almost kiss, the way his fingers had felt against her cheek, the vulnerability in his voice when he'd admitted to being lonely. By Wednesday, Jade staged an intervention. You've cleaned the apartment twice. reorganized your entire bookshelf by color, which is psychotic, by the way, and you've been stress baking since Sunday. Jade held up Exhibit a tray of chocolate chip cookies. You're spiraling over the billionaire. I'm not spiraling. You alphabetized our cereal. We have 3 boxes. Natalie slumped onto the couch, defeated. I don't know what to do, Jade. He's everything I should avoid. He represents everything I've spent my career fighting against. But when I'm with him, you feel something. I feel confused, and angry at myself for feeling confused. Natalie grabbed a cookie, biting into it aggressively. He texted me, asked to see me again. And I haven't responded because I'm a coward. Or because you're scared of getting hurt. Jade settled beside her. Look, I get it. He's rich, powerful, and lives in a completely different world. But Nat, I saw your face when you came home Friday night. You were glowing. When's the last time you glowed over anyone? Never, Natalie realized. She'd had relationships. Sure, a college boyfriend. A fellow journalist she'd dated for 6 months. But nothing that made her feel this electric combination of excitement and terror. What if I write the article and it ruins everything? Natalie asked quietly. What if you don't write honestly and it ruins you? Jade countered. You've never compromised your integrity for anyone. Don't start now. Write the truth, whatever that is. And if he can't handle it, he's not worth your time anyway. Natalie's phone buzzed. Another text from Dominic. Your silence is noted. Cowardice doesn't suit you, Natalie Brooks. She laughed despite herself. He's calling me a coward. Well, are you? Natalie grabbed her phone and typed, Angelo's. Saturday, 7 p.m. Don't be late. His response came immediately. Wouldn't dream of it. Saturday arrived, wrapped in autumn rain. Natalie chose Angelo's again neutral territory where they'd already established a rhythm. She arrived early, armed with her notebook and a list of hard questions she'd been avoiding. If this was happening, she needed the whole story. The real Dominic Ashford, not the version he presented to the world. He walked in shaking rain from his hair, somehow making even wet look unfairly attractive. This time, he dressed down dark jeans, a simple sweater, no tie. More human, less armor. You came, he said, sliding into the seat across from her. You paid $100,000 for this privilege. Seemed rude to waste your investment. It was worth every penny. His eyes searched her face. You've been avoiding me. I've been thinking. Dangerous. I'm serious, Dominic. She used his first name deliberately, watching him react to it. Before this goes any further, I need to know something. Why did you really ask to see me again? The truth, not the charming deflection. He was quiet for a long moment, rain drumming against the windows. When he spoke, his voice was stripped of its usual confidence. Okay, here's the thing. 3 years ago, I was engaged. Victoria, she came from the right family, said the right things, fit perfectly into my world. I thought I loved her. I thought she loved me. He paused. Turned out she loved my potential more than my reality. When a European count came along with a title and a castle, she left. Sent the ring back by courier. I'm sorry. Don't be. She did me a favor. Showed me that in my world, nothing is genuine. Every relationship is transactional. Every smile has an agenda. I accepted that. Built my life around it. He met her eyes. Until you dumped champagne on me and called me out for being an arrogant ass. No agenda, no filter, just pure, honest indignation. Natalie's throat tightened. So I'm what, your redemption arc? Proof that you can connect with someone real? Maybe. Or maybe you're just someone who makes me want to be better than I am. He reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. I know you don't trust me. I know you see me as the enemy. But I'm asking for a chance to prove I'm more than your assumptions. And what am I supposed to be in this scenario? The person who saves you from yourself? I'm not interested in being your moral compass, Dominic. I don't want you to save me. I want you to challenge me. Push back when I'm wrong. Be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. His fingers finally closed over hers. I've spent 3 years around people who agree with everything I say. It's made me lazy and arrogant. You make me think. You make me question. You make me feel something other than bored contempt." The words should have sounded like a line, should have triggered her defenses. Instead, they resonated with something deep in her chest. "I'm writing about you," she said. "About the auction, about wealth and privilege and performative charity. I'm not pulling punches because we've had dinner twice. I wouldn't respect you if you did. It might not be flattering. I don't need flattery. I need honesty." Natalie pulled her hand back, needing distance to think clearly. "Okay, honest question then. The Riverside Project, the development in Queens that displaced all those families. Why did you really do it? And don't give me the PR answer about affordable housing and job training." "Why?" Dominic's jaw tightened. "Because I saw an opportunity to transform a blighted area into something valuable. Because the numbers made sense. Because I could. And the people living there were offered relocation assistance and first priority for the new affordable units. How many took you up on it?" Silence. "How many, Dominic?" 30%. The admission came out rough. Most couldn't afford even the affordable units, couldn't pass the credit checks, couldn't adjust to the new neighborhood culture we'd created. So 70% were displaced, forced out of their community. Yes. He didn't look away. "You want honesty? Here it is. I knew the numbers. I knew most wouldn't qualify. I told myself that 30% was better than nothing. That progress requires sacrifice, that I was improving the area, raising property values, creating opportunities." He paused. "I was wrong." Natalie froze, pen hovering over her notebook. "I was so focused on the outcome, the finished product, the profit margins, the accolades that I didn't see the cost. Not really. Not until I read your article comparing me to a robber baron." He smiled without humor. "You were right. I rationalized away real harm because it was inconvenient to my vision. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked for truth. Because you deserve it. Because I'm tired of pretending I don't have regrets." He leaned forward. "I can't undo Riverside, but I can do better going forward. I've been meeting with community leaders, adjusting how we approach development. It's slower, messier, less profitable. But it's right." Natalie studied him, searching for the lie, the performance. She found only raw honesty. "This doesn't absolve you. I know. One project doesn't erase the harm. I know that too. So why change? Why not just keep doing what's profitable?" "Because I met a judgmental journalist who challenged me to be better." His smile was soft. "Because for the first time in years, I care what someone thinks of me. And I want to be worthy of that judgment." The words hung between them, vulnerable and true. Natalie's carefully constructed defenses cracked. This was supposed to be simple. Document the excess, expose the privilege, maintain her moral high ground. But Dominic wasn't playing his part. He was supposed to be arrogant, unrepentant, easy to dismiss. Instead, he was human, flawed and trying, and dangerously easy to care about. "I need time," she said finally, "to process this, to figure out what I'm writing, what this is. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." They finished dinner with careful conversation, avoiding the elephant in the room. When they parted outside Angelo's, the rain had stopped, leaving the Brooklyn streets gleaming. "Natalie," Dominic called as she turned to leave. "Whatever you write, whatever you decide about me, about us, I want you to know something. Meeting you changed me. Whether or not this goes anywhere, thank you for that." She walked home in the cool night air, her mind spinning, her heart conflicted. When she sat down to write her article that night, the words flowed differently than expected. Not a condemnation, not a puff piece, but something more complicated. A meditation on wealth, privilege, and the possibility of change. She titled it, "When Billionaires Become Human, A Complicated Story." And for the first time, she wondered if Dominic Ashford might be more than just a story after all. Dominic's confession changes everything. Can someone really change? Or is Natalie setting herself up for heartbreak? What do you think, is his transformation real? Share your thoughts. The article went live Monday morning. Natalie had labored over every word, balancing honesty with nuance, critique with compassion. She'd written about the Bachelor auction as both spectacle and genuine charity, examined Dominic's privilege while acknowledging his willingness to grow. It was her most careful work, measured, fair, and deeply personal without crossing into sentimentality. Dan had loved it, called it her best piece in years, but the public had other opinions. By noon, her inbox was flooded. Half the emails praised her for a thoughtful examination of wealth and responsibility. The other half accused her of being a sellout, of going soft on the elite, of betraying everything she stood for. "You've been bought," one reader wrote. "How much did Ashford pay you to write this puff piece? Disappointed in you, Natalie. You used to have integrity. Guess champagne dumping was just for show. You're like all the rest, dazzled by money." Natalie stared at her screen, each comment a small knife wound. She'd expected criticism. Her work always drew strong reactions, but this felt different, personal. These were her readers, her community, people who'd trusted her voice, and they thought she'd sold out. Her phone rang. "Dominic, I read the article," he said without preamble. "It's brilliant. Half the internet thinks I'm a traitor to the working class. The other half thinks you're a visionary. That's called impact." She could hear the smile in his voice. "Natalie, you wrote something true and complicated. Of course, people are reacting strongly. That means you hit a nerve. Or, I compromised my principles for what? For being fair? For acknowledging complexity?" His voice gentled. "You didn't go easy on me. You called out legitimate harm while recognizing the potential for change. That's not compromise. That's sophisticated journalism." Natalie wanted to believe him, but doubt had already burrowed deep. "I need to go," she said. "I have work." She hung up before he could respond. The real explosion came Wednesday evening. Natalie was home, trying to ignore her email, when Jade burst through the door waving her phone. "Please tell me you haven't seen this yet." "Seen what?" Jade pulled up a video on social media. The caption read, "Leaked. Dominic Ashford's real thoughts on his journalist girlfriend." Natalie's blood went cold as she pressed play. The video showed Dominic at what looked like a private club, surrounded by men in expensive suits. The footage was grainy, clearly recorded secretly, but the audio was damning. "Come on, Ashford," a male voice prompted. "The journalist who soaked you at the gala, you're actually dating her? What's the play?" Dominic's laugh. "It's not complicated, Marcus. You know how it works. Enlighten us." "She's got a platform, influence with a demographic I can't usually reach. Young, progressive, suspicious of wealth. Her endorsement, even implicit, is worth more than any PR campaign money can buy." Natalie's hands went numb. "So it's all strategic?" Marcus again. "No genuine interest? Please." Dominic's voice dripped with condescension. "She's a means to an end. I play the reformed billionaire. She writes her feel-good piece about my transformation, and suddenly I'm not the villain anymore. I'm the tech mogul with a conscience. It's brilliant, really. And when you're done with her? Then I'm done with her. She goes back to her crusades. I go back to business. Everyone wins. Well, everyone except her, I suppose. But she'll recover. Journalists always do." The video ended. Natalie sat frozen, Jade's hand on her shoulder, the words echoing in her skull. A means to an end. When I'm done with her. Everyone except her. "Nat, say something." She couldn't. Couldn't breathe past the crushing weight in her chest. She'd been so careful, so guarded, and still, she'd let herself believe. Let herself hope that maybe Dominic was different. That maybe she was different with him. All lies. All performance. She'd been played by a master manipulator, and she'd written him a glowing character reference in a major publication. Her phone rang. "Dominic." She declined the call. It rang again immediately, and again. "Finally," she answered. "Don't. Natalie, that video, it's not what you think. Let me explain." "Explain what? That you manipulated me? Used me for PR?" Her voice cracked despite her best efforts. "I defended you. I wrote about your potential for change. I made myself vulnerable to you. And the whole time, I was just part of your strategy. No. God, no. That video was taken weeks ago, before the gala, before I actually knew you. So, you admit you said it. Silence. Damning silence. I thought so. Natalie's hand trembled around the phone. You know what the worst part is? I actually believed you. I believed you were different. That I was different. How stupid was I? You're not stupid. I was. I am. He sounded wrecked, desperate. That video captures who I was before you made me question everything. Please, let me see you. Let me explain in person. There's nothing to explain. You used me. I let you. End of story. Natalie, please. She hung up, blocked his number, then sat on her couch and let herself fall apart. By Thursday morning, the story had exploded everywhere. Natalie's article was now being dissected through the lens of the leaked video. Twitter was having a field day. Champagne Girl trended nationwide, with people divided between mocking her naivety and defending her integrity. Worse, Dan called her into his office. We need to talk about issuing a statement, he said, his expression grave. What kind of statement? Clarifying that the article was journalistic work, not paid promotion. Addressing the conflict of interest. There was no conflict of interest. I disclosed my connection to Ashford. I wrote honestly. I know that. You know that. But perception matters, Natalie. Half our readership thinks you were compromised. The other half is defending you so fiercely we're getting accused of bias. We need to get ahead of this. By apologizing for honest journalism, by protecting the paper's credibility. The words hit like a slap. Her work, her careful, honest work, was now a liability. Something to be managed and explained away. I won't apologize for the article, she said firmly. Every word was true. Even the parts where you went easy on him? I didn't go easy. I was fair. There's a difference. Dan sighed, looking older than his 55 years. Look, kid, I believe you. But this has gotten bigger than one article. The board is concerned. They're talking about reassigning you. Maybe suspension pending review. Suspension? For what? For the appearance of impropriety. Natalie stood abruptly. So I'm being punished because a billionaire lied to me? Because I dared to write something nuanced instead of a hit piece? You're being asked to step back while we sort this out. That's not the same thing. In this business, it is. Natalie walked out of Dan's office, her career imploding, her judgment in shambles, her heart in pieces. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Dominic must have gotten a new phone. I know you won't believe me, but that video doesn't show the whole truth. I was performing for them, the same way I performed for everyone before you. You changed that. Changed me. Please give me a chance to prove it. She deleted it without responding. Friday night, Jade found Natalie on the couch, surrounded by empty ice cream containers and a true crime documentary marathon. Okay, intervention time. Jade turned off the TV. You've wallowed enough. I trusted him, Jade. I let my guard down. I wrote an article that compromised my credibility. I'm being suspended. My career might be over. I think I'm entitled to wallow. Your career isn't over. You wrote a good article that people are misinterpreting. That's not the same thing. Tell that to my editor. Okay, fine. Yes, this sucks. Yes, Ashford is probably a manipulative ass. Yes, you got played. Jade sat beside her. But you know what? You also did something brave. You took a risk on believing someone could change. That's not weakness, Nat. That's courage. Courage got me suspended and humiliated. Courage got you a story worth telling. So what if it didn't end the way you wanted? You still learned something. You still grew. I learned that rich men are exactly as terrible as I always thought. Did you, though? Jade challenged. Or did you learn that people are complicated? That someone can say awful things and still have the capacity for change? That maybe, just maybe, both things can be true at once? Natalie wanted to argue, but exhaustion won out. I don't know what I learned anymore. Then, figure it out. But do it honestly. Not because you're angry or hurt or embarrassed. Figure out what you actually believe about Dominic Ashford. Then decide what to do next. After Jade went to bed, Natalie sat with her laptop, staring at her article, reading it with fresh eyes, divorced from emotion. It was still good, still honest, still true to what she'd seen in Dominic during their conversations. The video didn't erase that. It complicated it, certainly. But it didn't erase it. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for a chance to explain. One conversation. Then I'll leave you alone if that's what you want. Angelos. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. I'll be there whether you come or not. Natalie stared at the message for a long time. Then, against every instinct screaming at her to protect herself, she typed a single word. Fine. She was probably making another mistake, but she needed to hear him say it to her face. Needed closure, if nothing else. Tomorrow, she'd get her answers. Whatever they were. Natalie almost didn't go. She changed her mind 17 times between waking up and 6:30 p.m. Jade had offered to come along for moral support, or as she put it, to throw champagne on him if he deserves it. But Natalie declined. This was something she needed to do alone. She arrived at Angelo's at 7:15, deliberately late. Let him wait. Let him feel a fraction of the anxiety that had been eating at her for days. He was there, sitting at their usual table by the window, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His suit was rumpled, his tie loosened, stubble shadowing his jaw. When he saw her, relief and fear warred across his face. "You came," he said, standing. "Don't read too much into it." Natalie sat without removing her coat, arms crossed. "You have 15 minutes. Then I'm leaving, and you're going to respect that boundary." "Fair enough." He sat slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. "Thank you for coming. I didn't come for you. I came for me. I need to hear you say it to my face that I was just a PR strategy. That everything between us was calculated." Her voice remained steady through sheer force of will. "So go ahead. Give me closure." Dominic flinched. "That video was you. In your world, with your people, saying what you really think. Don't insult my intelligence by claiming it was taken out of context." "I'm not. You're right, I said those things. Every word." He met her eyes, not flinching from the pain there. "But you want the full truth? Here it is. That conversation happened 3 weeks before the gala. Marcus was needling me about attending the bachelor auction, calling it beneath me. I was defensive, arrogant, and yes, I positioned it as a strategic move. Good PR, positive press, all the things I said. So you admit it." "I admit that's how it started. I saw the auction as an opportunity for good publicity. When you dumped champagne on me, my first thought was damage control. When I bid $100,000, part of me, maybe most of me, was thinking about the narrative. Reformed billionaire learns from angry journalist. It would play well. Each word was a knife, but Natalie forced herself to listen. But here's what that video doesn't show." Dominic leaned forward, intensity burning in his eyes. "It doesn't show our first dinner, when you challenged every assumption I had about myself. It doesn't show me reading all your articles at 3 a.m. because I couldn't stop thinking about your perspective. It doesn't show me calling my development team and demanding we overhaul our community outreach protocols because you made me see what I'd been blind to. Pretty words. Not words. Actions." He pulled out his phone, scrolling quickly. "Here. These are emails between me and community leaders in 3 neighborhoods where we're planning developments. I've delayed groundbreaking by 6 months in each location to incorporate resident feedback. It's cost me $8 million so far." He showed her the screen. Natalie saw correspondence, meeting notes, revised proposals. "This proves you can fake concern, does it? Look at the dates, Natalie. All after I met you, after our conversations." He scrolled more. "Here, an email to my CFO authorizing relocation bonuses for every family displaced by the Riverside project. Retroactive. I can't undo the harm I caused, but I can try to make it right. Natalie's throat tightened, but she pushed emotion aside. You're a billionaire. 8 million. Relocation bonuses, it's pocket change. A tax write-off. You're right. It is pocket change to me. His voice dropped. But this isn't. He pulled a folded paper from his jacket. Natalie recognized it immediately, her article. I've read this 47 times since Monday, Dominic said quietly. Every time, I see myself through your eyes. Not the version I present to the world. Not the strategic persona, the actual person underneath. Flawed, capable of harm, but also capable of change. He looked up. You saw potential in me that I'd stopped seeing in myself. That's not worth $8 million, Natalie. That's priceless. So what, I'm supposed to be flattered? Grateful that I inspired you to be slightly less terrible? No, you're supposed to be angry, hurt, suspicious, all the things you are. He set the article down between them. But I need you to know that what started as somewhere between that first dinner and the moment I almost kissed you in the rain, everything changed. You became real. This became real. How am I supposed to believe that? How do I know this isn't just another performance? You don't. You can't. The admission was stark. I can show you emails and revised proposals and charitable donations, but none of that proves what's in my heart. You have to decide whether to trust me, and given everything, I wouldn't blame you for saying no. Natalie's carefully constructed armor was cracking. She wanted to stay angry, stay protected, but doubt was creeping in. The exhaustion in his face looked genuine. The documents seemed real, and the way he was looking at her. Why didn't you tell me about that conversation? She asked. Before the video leaked? Because I was ashamed. Because I knew how it would sound, how it would hurt you. Because I was a coward. He ran a hand through his hair. I told myself it didn't matter because I'd changed, because my intentions had become real. But that was selfish. You deserved to know who I was before I met you, so you could make an informed choice about who I am now. And who are you now? Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. But I know I'm someone different than I was a month ago. Someone who questions more, assumes less, cares about impact over optics. He paused. Someone who's falling for a journalist who challenges him to be better every single day. Natalie's heart stuttered. Don't. Don't what? Don't tell you how I feel? Don't be honest? He stood, moving around the table, but keeping distance between them. You asked for truth. Here it is. I'm falling for you, Natalie Brooks. I probably started falling the moment you dumped champagne on me and didn't apologize. I definitely fell when you ordered pasta like you were challenging me to judge you for it. And I completely lost the battle when you admitted you'd made assumptions about me and apologized with actual sincerity. Dominic, I know I've hurt you. I know I broke your trust. I know your career is suffering because of me. His voice cracked. If I could take back that video, that conversation, the person I was before I met you, I would. But I can't. All I can do is stand here and tell you that you've changed my life, and ask no. Beg for a chance to prove I'm worthy of changing yours. Tears burned Natalie's eyes. She blinked them back furiously. You can't just say beautiful things and expect that to fix everything. I know. That's why I'm not just saying things. He pulled out another paper, a check, made out to the Community Justice Foundation, her favorite nonprofit, for $2 million. I've matched this donation to 4 other organizations you've written about, not for PR, not for tax benefits, because you showed me where my money could actually matter. You're trying to buy forgiveness. I'm trying to show you I'm listening, that your values matter to me, that I want to be the person you saw potential in, even when I couldn't see it myself. He set the check down. But if you walk away right now, I'll respect that. I'll leave you alone. The donations stand either way because they're the right thing to do, not a transaction. Natalie stared at the check, at his face, at the article between them. Her mind raced, heart and logic warring. I don't know if I can trust you, she whispered. That's fair. I don't know if this is real or if you're just a really good actor. Also fair. I don't know if giving you another chance makes me brave or stupid. Probably both. A ghost of a smile. You're always both. Despite everything, Natalie huffed a laugh. You're still insufferable. And you're still judgmental and stubborn and terrible at accepting compliments. I'm also still angry at you. You should be. And hurt. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. The words were raw, unpolished. I never wanted to hurt you, Natalie. But I did. And I'll spend however long it takes making it right, if you'll let me. Natalie closed her eyes, taking a shaky breath. Every logical part of her brain screamed to walk away. Protect herself. Don't risk more pain. But a quieter voice, the one that had seen genuine change in him, that had felt real connection, that believed in second chances, whispered something different. If I do this, she said slowly, opening her eyes. If I give you another chance, things change. No more secrets. No more strategic thinking. Complete transparency. Yes, anything. I'm still writing about you. Honestly, if you mess up, if you backslide, if you hurt more people, I will write about it. I wouldn't want it any other way. And we take this slow, incredibly slow. I need time to rebuild trust. However much time you need. I mean it, Dominic. Glacially slow. We're talking continental drift levels of slow. I'll buy a calendar. Mark off the millennia. She fought a smile. This isn't funny. It's a little funny. His expression softened. Natalie, I will wait however long it takes. Weeks, months, years. However long you need to trust me again, if you ever do, I'll be here. Natalie stood, finally removing her coat. Okay, we can try. Slowly. With complete honesty. And the first time you lie to me, manipulate me, or treat me like a PR opportunity, I'm gone. No second chances after this. Understood. Relief flooded his face. Thank you. I promise I won't waste this. You better not. Because I'm not just risking my heart here. I'm risking my credibility, my career, everything I've built. So you need to be worth it. I'll spend every day trying to be. They stood there, the table between them, the weight of everything unsaid hanging in the air. Finally, Dominic extended his hand. Hi, I'm Dominic Ashford. I'm a work in progress with a lot of privilege. I'm learning to use better. I'm probably going to mess up sometimes, but I'm trying to be better. And I'm completely, terrifyingly falling for you. Natalie looked at his hand, then took it. Hi, I'm Natalie Brooks. I'm a journalist with strong opinions and trust issues who's probably making a terrible decision. But I believe in second chances and the possibility of change. Also, I might be falling for you too, which is annoying. Very annoying. The worst. Absolutely terrible. Their hands remained clasped, neither wanting to let go. So what now? Natalie asked. Now, we start over. But honestly this time, no performances, no strategies. Just two complicated people figuring out if they can make something work. That sounds terrifying. Completely. But maybe also worth it? Natalie smiled, really smiled for the first time in days. Yeah, maybe it is. 3 weeks later, Natalie stood in the lobby of Ashford Tower, trying not to hyperventilate. You can do this. Jade's voice crackled through her phone. You've interviewed corrupt politicians, shady landlords, and literal crime bosses. You can handle a shareholder meeting. Those people weren't trying to destroy my boyfriend's company. Boyfriend is a strong word for guy you're glacially dating, Jade teased. But yes, technically accurate. Now go in there and be brilliant. Natalie hung up, smoothing her blazer. The past 3 weeks had been strange. Good strange. But strange nonetheless. She and Dominic had been taking things painfully slow. Coffee dates, walks in the park, long conversations about everything and nothing. He'd been transparent to the point of oversharing, showing her board meeting notes, development proposals. Even his therapy sessions schedule. "I promised honesty," he'd said. "That means the messy parts too." It was working. Slowly, carefully, trust was rebuilding. But now that trust faced its biggest test. Marcus Chen, the man from the leaked video, had rallied other shareholders and was launching a hostile takeover attempt. His argument was simple. Dominic's socialist sympathies and PR-driven charity projects were costing the company money and betraying shareholder interests. He had the votes lined up. Today's emergency meeting would decide Ashford Development's future, and Dominic had asked Natalie to attend. "I need you there," he'd said last night over their now customary late-night phone call. "Not as a journalist, not as my girlfriend, as someone who holds me accountable. If I'm going to fight for this company, I need to fight for the right version of it, and you're my compass." Now, riding the elevator to the 52nd floor, Natalie wondered if she was crazy for saying yes. The boardroom was packed. Shareholders filled leather chairs around a massive table. Marcus Chen sat at the far end, smugness radiating from his designer suit. Dominic stood at the head of the table, and when he saw Natalie enter, visible relief crossed his face. "Miss Brooks," Marcus said coldly, "I wasn't aware journalists were invited to closed shareholder meetings." "Miss Brooks is here as my guest and advisor," Dominic replied smoothly. "Unless you've changed the bylaws, I'm allowed guests." "How appropriate. Bringing your girlfriend to watch you lose your company." Marcus smiled like a shark. "Shall we begin?" The next hour was brutal. Marcus presented his case with ruthless efficiency. Charts showing lost profits from Dominic's community programs. Projections of wasted capital on relocation bonuses. Complaints from investors about delayed developments due to community feedback sessions. "Dominic Ashford has forgotten what this company is about," Marcus concluded. "We're developers, not social workers. We build, we profit, we grow. Under my leadership, we'll return to those core values and stop this bleeding heart nonsense that's costing us millions." Several shareholders nodded. Natalie's stomach dropped. Then Dominic stood. "Marcus is right," he said quietly. Shocked murmurs rippled through the room. Natalie's head snapped up. "I have changed what this company is about. I've delayed projects, increased costs, prioritized community impact over quarterly profits." Dominic's gaze swept the room. "And I'm not sorry." Dominic, one shareholder, started. "Let me finish." His voice was calm but commanding. "Marcus wants to paint this as failed leadership, as weakness, as letting emotions override business sense. But here's what he's not telling you." Dominic clicked a remote. A presentation appeared on the screen. The Riverside Project. Under the old model, Marcus's model, we displaced 200 families, faced 3 lawsuits, and dealt with 18 months of protests that delayed completion and cost us $4 million in security and legal fees. He clicked again. The Harbor District Project. New model. We engaged the community from day one, provided relocation assistance, incorporated feedback. 0 lawsuits. 0 protests. Completed 2 months ahead of schedule. In dialogue. More clicks, more data. Natalie watched shareholders lean forward, interest replacing skepticism. The Wellington Heights development. Old model. We faced zoning challenges, community opposition, and eventually sold the project at a loss. The Parkside development. New model. Community partnership from the start. Not only completed on time, but we pre-sold 80% of units before breaking ground because the community advocated for us instead of against us. Cherry-picked examples, Marcus interjected. Not cherry-picked, comprehensive data. Dominic's expression hardened. "You want to talk about bleeding heart nonsense? Let's talk numbers." In the past 6 months, our community-focused developments have seen a 32% increase in pre-sales, a 40% decrease in legal fees, and completion times, averaging 3 weeks faster than our traditional approach. He clicked to a final slide. Moreover, we've attracted 5 major investors, specifically because of our community impact model. Sustainable development is the future, whether you like it or not. Companies that adapt will thrive. Companies that don't will become obsolete. The room was silent. "You're gambling with our money on being nice," Marcus said, but his confidence had wavered. "I'm gambling on being smart. There's a difference." Dominic looked around the table. "I'm not proposing charity. I'm proposing a better business model. One where we profit by building with communities, not despite them. Where we create value for everyone, not just ourselves." "And if it fails?" a shareholder asked. "Then you vote me out and bring in someone else. But give me 1 year. 1 year to prove this model works not just morally, but financially. If our profits decrease, our growth slows, or our market position weakens, I'll step aside voluntarily." "Why should we trust you?" another shareholder challenged. Dominic glanced at Natalie. "Because I have someone who won't let me forget why this matters. Someone who'll call me out the second I prioritize profit over people. Who'll hold me accountable when I slip back into old patterns." He looked back at the board. 3 months ago, a journalist dumped champagne on me at a charity gala because I embodied everything wrong with unchecked wealth and privilege. She wasn't wrong, but she also saw potential for something better. I'm asking you to see that potential too. Marcus stood abruptly. "This is absurd. You're letting a woman, a journalist who's actively criticized this company, influence billion-dollar decisions." "No," Dominic said firmly. "I'm letting someone with integrity and a different perspective help me make better decisions. Something you've never done, Marcus. You surround yourself with yes men and profit margins. I'm trying to build something that actually matters. Profit matters. Profit isn't enough anymore." Dominic's voice rang out. "We're living in a world where people care about impact, where consumers choose companies based on values, where employees want to work somewhere they can be proud of. You can call it socialism or bleeding hearts or whatever makes you feel superior. But it's the future. And if you can't see that, you're the one who's obsolete." The room erupted in debate, shareholders arguing, questioning, challenging. Natalie watched Dominic hold his ground, answering every concern with data, honesty, and vision. Finally, the board chairwoman called for order. "Enough. We vote. All in favor of Marcus Chen's takeover proposal?" Hands rose. Natalie counted quickly. 7 votes. All in favor of maintaining Dominic Ashford's leadership with the proposed 1-year evaluation period? More hands. Natalie held her breath. 8-7. The motion fails. Dominic retains leadership. Relief crashed over the room like a wave. Marcus stormed out, 2 loyalists following. The remaining shareholders approached Dominic, shaking hands, asking questions about the new model. Natalie stayed back, watching him navigate the politics with grace and confidence. This was the man she'd seen potential in. Not the arrogant billionaire from the video, but someone genuinely trying to use his power for good. Eventually, the room cleared. Dominic crossed to her, exhaustion and joy warring on his face. "You did it," she said. "We did it." He took her hand carefully, still respecting boundaries. "I meant what I said in there. None of this works without you keeping me honest. I'm not your conscience, Dominic. I'm just someone who expects you to have one. That's exactly what I need." He squeezed her hand gently. "Thank you for being here. For believing I could be worth believing in." Natalie looked up at him, this complicated, flawed, trying man, and felt something shift. The last wall around her heart didn't crumble. It simply opened, like a door she'd been holding closed, finally swinging free. "I have a confession," she said. "Should I be worried?" "Maybe." She smiled. "I don't want to take things slow anymore." His eyes widened. "Natalie, I know what I said. I know I wanted glacial timelines and continental drift. But watching you in there, fighting for something that matters, putting your career on the line for values over profit." She stepped closer. "I trust you. Not because you're perfect, you're definitely not perfect, but because you're trying, really trying. And that's enough." "Are you sure? Because I don't want you to feel pressured." "Dominic, shut up and kiss me." He laughed, the sound pure joy, and cupped her face in his hands. "For the record, this is the best business decision I've ever made. Kissing me, falling for you. That's the worst business decision you've ever made, she corrected. But maybe the best personal one. Definitely the best personal one. Then he kissed her, and it was nothing like the almost kiss in the rain. This was certain and real and earned. This was two people who'd fought their way to trust, who'd challenged each other to be better, who'd chosen each other despite every reason not to. When they finally broke apart, Natalie was breathless. "So," Dominic said, forehead resting against hers, "now what? Now you take me to Angelo's, buy me the most expensive pasta on the menu, and tell me all about your plans to revolutionize ethical development. That's the sexiest sentence anyone's ever said to me. You need to get out more." "I really don't." He kissed her again, softer this time. "I have everything I need right here." Natalie rolled her eyes but couldn't stop smiling. "You're still insufferable, and you're still judgmental. We're a disaster. We're perfect." And somehow, impossibly, they were. Outside Ashford Tower, as they walked hand in hand toward Angelo's, Natalie caught their reflection in the glass windows. A journalist and a billionaire. A cynic and an optimist. Two people who should never have worked but somehow did. She thought about that first night. Champagne dripping down Dominic's tuxedo, rage and righteousness fueling her actions. She'd called him out for being everything wrong with wealth and privilege. He'd challenged her to see beyond her assumptions. And together, they'd found something neither expected. A partnership built on honesty, growth, and the radical belief that people, even billionaires, could change. "What are you thinking about?" Dominic asked. "Champagne," Natalie said with a grin. "Should I be worried?" "Maybe a little." He laughed and pulled her closer. "I wouldn't have it any other way." Neither would she. 1 year later, Natalie stared at her laptop screen, cursor blinking mockingly at the end of her article. The deadline was in 3 hours, and she still hadn't written the conclusion to what might be the most important piece of her career. Still stuck? Dominic's voice came from the doorway of their mine too, their apartment. Even after 6 months of living together, the words still felt surreal. "I can't figure out how to end it without sounding preachy, or like I'm selling out." He crossed the room, setting a coffee mug beside her laptop. "Let me see. It's not ready." "Natalie, let me see." She sighed and turned the screen toward him. The headline read, "1 year later, when billionaires actually change a case study in accountability and growth." Dominic read silently, his expression shifting from curious to surprised to something softer. When he finished, he looked at her with those damn eyes that still made her heart stutter. "This is brilliant," he said quietly. "The ending's weak. The ending's honest. You're just scared to publish it." He was right, annoyingly. The article detailed Ashford Development's transformation over the past year. The successes, the failures, the ongoing challenges. But it also detailed her own journey from cynical journalist to whatever she was now. Advocate, partner, both? "What if people think I've lost my objectivity?" she asked. "What if they say I'm compromised because I'm with you?" "Are you compromised?" "No. I still call you out when you screw up. Frequently and loudly," he agreed with a smile. "Remember last month when I suggested fast-tracking the Riverside expansion? You wanted to cut community feedback sessions by half. Of course I called you out. And I listened. We kept all the sessions, delayed the project, and ended up with a better design because of community input." He crouched beside her chair. "Natalie, you haven't lost your objectivity. You've gained access. There's a difference. Access that I only have because we're together. Access that you're using to hold the industry accountable from the inside. How many journalists can actually verify whether developers follow through on their promises? You can. You do." He squeezed her hand. "Your voice hasn't gotten softer. It's gotten more effective." Natalie looked at her article again. He was right, she'd documented real change. But she'd also documented setbacks. Moments when Dominic had fallen into old patterns. Times when profit had temporarily overshadowed principle. She hadn't pulled punches. She'd just added context. "Okay," she said. "I'll finish it." "Good, because we need to leave in an hour." "Leave for what?" "You forgot." His expression was bemused. The anniversary gala. For the Community Justice Foundation. The one where we're presenting the annual partnership award. That's tonight? Natalie groaned. I thought it was next week. It's been on the calendar for 3 months. I've been busy. Some of us are investigative journalists with actual deadlines, not billionaire philanthropists who just throw money at problems. I also attend 6 hours of community meetings per week and personally review every development proposal. But sure, I just throw money around. She stuck her tongue out at him. He kissed her forehead. Finish your article, he said. I'll pick out something for you to wear. I can dress myself. The last gala, you wore your interview blazer with jeans because you forgot to check the dress code. It was business casual. It was black tie. Whatever. I looked good. You always look good. But maybe let me help this time? Natalie waved him away, already typing. The conclusion came easier now, words flowing as she stopped overthinking, and just wrote the truth. 2 hours later, Natalie submitted the article with minutes to spare and emerged from the bedroom to find Dominic waiting in a tuxedo, holding a garment bag. I took the liberty, he said. Inside was a dress deep green, elegant but not fussy, exactly her style. She wanted to be annoyed at his presumption, but couldn't quite manage it. You're insufferable. You say that a lot. You are insufferable a lot. Fair. He kissed her cheek. But you love me anyway. The words still sent a thrill through her, even though they'd been saying them for months now. Love. Actual. Terrifying. Wonderful love. Unfortunately, she said, taking the dress. Give me 20 minutes. Take 30. We have time. The gala was at the Riverside Community Center, a building that stood on land Ashford Development had originally planned to demolish. Instead, after community feedback and Natalie's pointed articles, they'd preserved and renovated it. Now it served as a hub for local programs, job training, and community events. Still weird seeing your company's name on a building you don't own, Natalie murmured as they entered. Best investment we never made, Dominic replied. The goodwill alone has been worth millions in positive press and community relationships. Listen to you, quantifying goodwill. You can take the billionaire out of capitalism, but you're still very much in capitalism. You just found a way to do it less terribly. I'll take it. Inside, the center buzzed with energy. Community leaders, activists, journalists, and yes, some developers mingled. Jade spotted them immediately and rushed over, radiant in a purple dress. Finally, come on, they're about to start the presentations. She grabbed Natalie's arm, then paused. Wait, you're not wearing your interview blazer. One time, Natalie groaned. That happened one time. Twice, Dominic and Jade said in unison. The program began with updates from various organizations funded by the Community Justice Foundation. Natalie watched, pride swelling, as speakers described real impact. Families housed, communities preserved, development projects that actually served residents. Then came the Partnership Award given annually to a company demonstrating genuine commitment to ethical development. This year's recipient, the foundation director announced, has undergone a remarkable transformation. Ashford Development, under Dominic Ashford's leadership, has pioneered a new model of community-engaged development that prioritizes people alongside profit. Applause filled the room. Natalie clapped too, though her journalist brain automatically cataloged caveats. Still a work in progress. Not perfect. More to do. Dominic took the stage, and Natalie's heart did that annoying flutter thing. Thank you, he began. But I need to be clear, this award doesn't belong to me alone. It belongs to every community member who held us accountable, every activist who demanded better, and especially to the journalists who refused to let us hide behind PR and good intentions. His eyes found Natalie in the crowd. A year and a half ago, a journalist dumped champagne on me at a charity event. She called me out for representing everything wrong with unchecked wealth and privilege. She was right, but she also saw potential for change, and she spent every day since making sure I live up to that potential. Natalie's cheeks burned as heads turned toward her. This model works because someone is always watching, always questioning, always demanding proof of real impact. That's the only way any of this means anything. He held up the award. So thank you to the Community Justice Foundation, but more importantly, thank you to everyone who keeps us honest. More applause, and Natalie felt Jade squeeze her hand. He's good, Jade whispered. He's learning, Natalie corrected. After the ceremony, they mingled. Community leaders approached Dominic with project ideas. Activists engaged him in spirited debates about affordable housing. Natalie watched him navigate it all, listening more than talking, admitting uncertainty when he didn't know answers, promising follow-up instead of empty commitments. He's really changed, a voice said beside her. Natalie turned to find Maria Rodriguez, director of the Tenants' Rights Coalition, one of the organization's most critical of Ashford Development's past practices. He's trying, Natalie said carefully. More than trying, succeeding. Maria smiled. I've worked with a lot of developers who talk about community engagement. Very few actually do it. Dominic does. Because of you, I think. Not just because of me. Maybe not, but you're a big part of it. Maria's expression turned serious. I read your article today, the one about accountability and growth. You're doing important work, showing people that change is possible without letting anyone off the hook for past harm. That's the balance I'm trying to strike. You're striking it. Keep going. As Maria walked away, Dominic appeared at Natalie's side. That you're not completely terrible. High praise from Maria Rodriguez. The highest. They stood together, watching the crowd, a mix of people who would never have been in the same room 2 years ago. Wealthy developers talking to community activists. Journalists interviewing both sides. Progress, messy and imperfect, but real. Dance with me, Dominic said suddenly. There's no music. As if on cue, a band started playing in the corner. Of course he'd planned this. You're so extra, Natalie said, but let him lead her to the floor. They swayed together, and Natalie rested her head against his chest, hearing his heartbeat steady and sure. I'm proud of you, she murmured. I'm proud of us. That's cheesy. You love cheesy. I really don't. You really do. She smiled against his jacket. Maybe a little. Natalie Brooks, admitting to sentiment. Mark the calendar. Don't push it, Ashford. He laughed, and they kept dancing. Two people who'd changed each other in ways neither expected. She'd challenged him to be better. He'd challenged her to see beyond cynicism. Together, they'd built something neither could have created alone. Hey, Dominic said softly. Hey yourself. Thank you. For what? For dumping champagne on me. For seeing potential I couldn't see. For holding me accountable every single day. For loving me despite all the very valid reasons not to. Natalie looked up at him. This man who'd gone from everything she despised to everything she valued. Thank you for proving me wrong, she said. About billionaires, about change, about second chances. Did I prove you wrong? Or did I prove you right, that people can grow? Both, maybe. I'll take it. She kissed him then, there on the dance floor, surrounded by the community they'd helped build together. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There would be more challenges, more setbacks, more moments when profit tempted principle. But they'd face them together. A journalist and a billionaire. A cynic and an optimist. Two people who'd learned that real change required accountability, honesty, and the willingness to keep trying even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. Later that night, back in their apartment, Natalie checked her email and found the first responses to her article. Most were positive. Some questioned her objectivity. A few called her a sellout. She read them all, then opened a new document and started taking notes for her next piece. Dominic appeared with 2 glasses of wine. Still working? Always. That's my girl. He kissed the top of her head. Don't stay up too late, says the man who has a 6 a.m. meeting with the Harbor District Community Board. Fair point. Early night for both of us? In an hour. I need to finish these notes. Okay. But Natalie? Yeah? I love you. even when you're calling me out in articles read by thousands of people. Especially then, you mean. Especially then, he agreed. She smiled and kept writing, knowing he was reading over her shoulder, probably mentally preparing his defense for whatever she'd critique next. It was messy and complicated, and completely imperfect. It was also exactly right. The end. From champagne-throwing enemies to accountability partners in love, Natalie and Dominic proved that real change is possible when people challenge each other to be better. Did you love their journey? Drop your favorite moment in the comments. And remember, sometimes the best love stories start with holding someone accountable.